Proof today that the message of Occupy has finally been heard loud and clear, not just around the country, but inside the White House. In our fourth story in the countdown, the president gives a glimpse into his 2012 campaign strategy in a speech full of Occupy themes, pledging to fight against inequality at what he called a make-or-break moment for the middle class.
I believe that this country succeeds when everyone gets a fair shot, when everyone does their fair share, when everyone plays by the same rules. These aren't democratic values or Republican values. These aren't 1% values or 99% values. They're American values, and we have to reclaim them.
President Obama spoke in the same small Kansas town in which Teddy Roosevelt delivered his pivotal New Nationalism speech more than 100 years ago. It was there that Roosevelt, a year and a half after he left the presidency, detailed the need for economic fairness and equal opportunity for all. Today, President Obama put forth similar populist themes, drawing on language you might recognize from the Occupy movement.
In the last few decades, the average income of the top 1% has gone up by more than 250%. to $1.2 million per year. I'm not talking about millionaires, people who have $1 million. I'm saying people who make $1 million every single year. For the top 100th of 1%, the average income is now $27 million per year. The typical CEO who used to earn about 30 times more than his or her worker now earns 110 times more. And yet, over the last decade, the incomes of most Americans have actually fallen by about 6%. Now, this kind of inequality, a level that we haven't seen since the Great Depression, hurts us all.
The impact and necessity of Occupy was also evident during the entirety of the president's 56-minute speech.
Inequality also distorts our democracy. It gives an outsized voice to the few who can afford high-priced lobbyists and unlimited campaign contributions. And it runs the risk of selling out our democracy to the highest bidder. It leaves everyone else rightly suspicious that the system in Washington is rigged against them, that our elected representatives aren't looking out for the interests of most Americans.
Joining me now, Robert Reich, the Labor Secretary during the Clinton administration, professor at Berkeley and author of Aftershock, The Next Economy and America's Future. Thanks once again for your time tonight, sir.
Good evening, Keith.
Given how reluctant all politicians have been to embrace the language and the spirit of Occupy, never mind the name or any of the titles of the cities around the country in which there is an Occupy, how far did the president really go today, and how surprising a speech was that?
I think this is an extraordinary speech, Keith. I think this, in a sense, is the most significant and important economic speech the president has given because he's laid it all out. He's connected the dots. He showed how inequality has affected our economy because the middle class no longer has the purchasing power to keep the economy going, and also how inequality has undermined our democracy because so much wealth and influence and privilege are at the top that they basically can flood our legislators and our Senate and Congress with money. The president really did provide Americans, I hope, with a peek at what the 2012 election will be all about.
So what does it mean before the 2012 election? Was there anything in there that hinted that there'd be action behind some of these words?
Well, the president did say that he was going to go after a lot of people on Wall Street who had been getting away with not being accountable. The president did say to Wall Street it has to modify mortgages and do things for average middle-class people with regard to home and mortgage mitigation. The president also suggested that he was going to really demand or in some way encourage corporate executives to be more socially responsible and stop creating jobs abroad instead of jobs in the United States. Now, again, there wasn't legislation attached to that last piece, but the president was fired up and said things that I have not heard him say in a way I have not heard him say so far in this presidency. I kept on, as he was talking, I kept on saying, finally, where has this president been? This is the Barack Obama we elected.
Is there any indication in that he's going, or even based on the early reaction to it, that there's going to be more of this from the president? And if from him, or even if not from him, could we see other elected officials now given entree into the area and essentially permission to echo some of these points made by Occupy, whether Occupy gets credit or not?
I think so, Keith. You know, the president has a bully pulpit, and that is that bully pulpit. That term was invented during Teddy Roosevelt's reign here in the United States, and that means the president has, like Teddy Roosevelt, an extraordinary power to convey a message when he wants to convey it, and he gives cover for every other politician who wants to use the same message, but may have been a little bit nervous about doing it for fear of appearing to be a little bit radical or to make one group a little bit upset with him or her. But no, the president, by using Teddy Roosevelt's bully pulpit, and it was not insignificant that this was done at the site of Teddy Roosevelt's New Nationalism speech, where Roosevelt said, look, American corporations, you've got to start working for America. Americans, you have got to start demanding that our economy work for all of you, and I'm going to make sure it does. It wasn't an accident that Obama chose this spot and also chose Teddy Roosevelt as a mentor. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. Yeah,
and it was Teddy Roosevelt, in fact, who popularized that phrase, bully pulpit, the first president to view it in those terms. So that's what it does for the president, conceivably what it does for policy. What does this speech do for the Occupy movement?
Well, it certainly bolsters the credibility of what a lot of people in the Occupy movement who have been supporting the Occupy movement have been saying. Inequality, wildly grotesque inequality, is one of the largest economic problems we face, if not the key economic problem, because it lies behind our economic, the rest of our economic problems. It means we don't have enough aggregate demand because consumers are not getting enough money in their pockets, and that means a loss of jobs, and it's also undermining democracy. He also said that it was undermining opportunity, that it was slowing down social mobility, that a child born today has much less opportunity to get ahead than a child born 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. He emphasized CEO pay and the grotesque dimensions of the pay on Wall Street. This is a president that is echoing Occupy, not only Occupy movement, but also a lot of what Americans have been saying. When the president talks about the game being rigged, a lot of people, I'm sure, whether they're occupiers or not, see that speech, hear that speech, or read that speech and say, yes, that's exactly what I feel. And Mr. President, tell me exactly, or at least over the 2012 election season, tell me exactly what you're going to do about it. Are we going to see a second Obama term that really is different than the first Obama term? Is this going to be an Obama second term that doesn't play into the hands of Wall Street, that makes demands on corporate America and demands on Wall Street that the economy work for average working people? Maybe.
I like that word rigged, too, for what it is or is not worth. The former Labor Secretary, Aftershock author, Robert Reich, thanks yet again for some of your time tonight. Okay, take care. Speaking of history and Osawatomie and all of that, there's another element of history. Sometimes it comes back and bites you, as Newt Gingrich found out today when his insulting comments about Donald Trump were unearthed a day after he said all those nice things about Donald Trump. Coming up.